a ridiculous amount of interest right now in Indianapolis rental properties. I don't know if any of you guys have seen some of the Super Bowl reviews on Indy, and people were just blown away by this town. And we've been bringing investors out here in groups of 50 or 60. Last year, what was it, Ashley? Maybe 9 groups we brought out here? We brought about 9 groups out here last year, anywhere from 50 to 150 investors. And the common thread that they had was they loved Indy as much as everyone who was out here for the Super Bowl did. I didn't know your downtown was so great. I didn't know that it was so clean. The airport's so nice. And, you know, I always can empathize because I moved out here back in 2004, and I came from Southern California. And when I left Southern California, everyone said, what the hell are you going to Indy for? Because in their minds it's just one big cornfield, or they've seen Hoosiers or something like that. And I say, hey, you're going to see. And when I was buying and selling properties in Southern California between 1998 and 2004. And the first duplex that I bought in '98, I paid $100,000 for. Okay, and it rented for $1,500 a month. Total was $750 aside. And I sold it 6 months later for $175, and spent maybe 10 grand on it. All right. Now the rental rate though was still the same when I sold it. The investor was buying it just based on the expected return that he was getting. So that was like early '99. That same duplex sold again in 2003 for $350,000 in Southern California. And guess what the rental rate still was?
The same.
$1,500. Now, when I bought it for 100 grand, taxes, insurance, etc., I was netting right around $1,100 a month. Times 12 months is about what? 13 grand-ish?
Yeah.
Okay. So the return on my investment, if I would have bought it all cash, was right about 13%. What do you think this guy was looking to make return-wise?
Well, property taxes went up, so
Right.
that $1,100
About
becomes
3%. And it was really interesting because I knew a couple other San Diego type investors that were buying these properties. And I remember saying to them, what's the rationale? Like, why are you buying these? And they all said, well, that's about what I average in my 401k and my IRA. And I figure when I add up that it still may keep going up in value, when I add up the tax benefits that I get from it, that and the fact that it's concrete, I don't see how that's a bad deal. And I thought, now my rationale was, well, I was buying at this. By '04, I sold about 70 properties and was sitting on just under $1 million cash. And I thought, I need to find this kind of ratio somewhere else in the country. And that led me to this market here. Because in '04, I came out to Indy. And Romo, what part of town are you from?
Northwest side.
Northwest side. Okay, so I was looking at Pike Township homes, near, Marion County Pike Township homes, that you could pick up in '04 for, 50 grand. Pike Township schools, fix them up for 10, into them for 60, and rent those out all day long for, $750 to $850. So think how happy I was when I came out here and could see that compared to what I was leaving, and how similar it was to what I had originally been doing, back in '98. Does that make sense? So when I came out here, I felt like I had stumbled into another gold mine. One of the things I didn't realize was that California is a nonlinear market, because it was up in '04, and where is it right now? Well, these same properties are selling now for about 110, 120. So they've
I was going to ask you that. Yeah, well, that was back in '98.
Yeah.
The good old days. Now, what's the seller for?
they're 10% above the '98 prices.
Yeah.
which I think is hilarious. So I really did buy low.
So you can
So
go back and do it again?
I've done that. You know, the house that I lived in, I bought it for $80,000, sold it for $350 when I left, and it was foreclosed on. The bank's selling as an REO for about $130 right now. And I still feel like, well, I should really get it for $80. Why should I buy it again forget what I made on it. I want to pay what I paid for it before.
Why overpay?
Yeah. Now, my dad, ironically, my dad was the one who told me to take a look at Indy. He was from here originally, grew up on the Near East Side, went to Tech High School, and he was actually living out on the West Coast, and he was managing a pool of funds with some other investors. They were doing loans with the money. And he said, why don't you take a look at Indy? Now, my grandmother has lived in the same house on the east side of Indy since, well, she grew up in Beech Grove, and now she's lived at 10th and Emerson since like 1957. So, you know, to me, Indy was state fair, going fishing summers with grandma and grandpa, not a real estate market. But my dad kind of planted this even when I came out here in '04. I thought, I got to take advantage of this, and the rest is history. Ashley and I met, what was it, like in
6, probably.
06. And since then, collectively, we've purchased over 1,800 properties here in Marion County. So for ourselves and for other investors. And right now we're managing about what, 500 doors?
We're pushing to 600 right now.
Yeah. And it's funny because you know, we bring investors out here. We speak to investors in California, in Vegas, all over the country to talk about this market, and everything related to the Super Bowl has really helped feed into that for us, because now it's kind of on everyone's radar and it's got nothing but rave reviews. And what's even more interesting is I would say in about the last 18 months, not only is Indy on everyone's radar as an investment vehicle, but it's really on a world scale. Last night I had a conference call with a UK investor who wants to put a website together to market Indianapolis properties to UK investors and to investors in the Commonwealth, aka Canada, because a 10% property here in Indy with the exchange rate becomes like a 15% property if you get paid in pounds or if you get paid in Canadian dollars. And so there's a lot of interest we see in Canada. There's a lot of interest from the UK, Southeast Asia, and Australia. There's a ton of interest. And so that's been something that I think is hilarious, because again, when I came out here in '04, everyone's like, you're missing out, properties are going crazy. And I'm like, yeah, they have been going crazy, but that's not necessarily going to be the case going forward.